Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's Monday, December 9th, 2024. This is an update for the All Hazards Consortium, the sensitive information sharing environment, where we share information across platforms from private sector liaisons within state emergency operations centers and the private sector partners that they serve, whether it's food, fuel, transportation, communication, logistics, even the energy sector. So we can be very responsive to any events that threaten or strike the United States. Well, this is what it looks like. I put the sea surface temperature data back in to the GOES East satellite image as we take a look at this loop right now. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Look at this. This is the loop current coming out of the Caribbean, creating some warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. That pretty much persists most of the year. But then look at this, being brought right over in the Gulf Stream and then right on up the East Coast. But what do you notice in this temperature data? Remember how it was all kind of yellow and reddish in the Gulf of Mexico during hurricane season? Thank goodness the cold air outbreaks that have come from our friends up in Canada have really cooled the Gulf down, and no longer is it really able to support tropical activity. Doesn't mean that subtropical activity couldn't develop, or a big winter storm, if that perhaps happens, wouldn't be fueled by the moisture here. But at least temperatures are quite cool. And look at this along the Gulf Coast. Temperatures in the upper 60s in the water there, sometimes low 70s. But even throughout the Caribbean, look at this. The temperatures are warm here, but they do cool off pretty quickly as you get up towards the Yucatan Channel. And here is Puerto Rico enjoying some beautiful weather, and also the islands, the Caribbean islands there. Here's Barbados right here. Beautiful weather, so we don't have to worry about any tropical activity going on. But as we go up further to the north, you can see a lot of cloud cover blanketing the East Coast. Although, look at this. This is pretty wild. The Mid-Atlantic, Maryland, Northern Virginia, getting their own personal area of clearing after some morning showers today. And I can show you that a little bit more on the mesoscale sector imagery. Take a look at this. I'll move this over just a little bit more. There we go. Look at that hole in the clouds. You can see some wave clouds from the wind blowing across the Appalachian Mountains. But clear skies from about Annapolis on southward, including Washington, D.C. Just some pleasant sunshine after morning clouds. But that will give way to perhaps some more showers a little bit later. Now, let me show you this. I'll widen out back here and show you this full screen as we show you what's going on across the Atlantic Ocean. Look at that cold water up here. And yes, here comes the sunset. This is the terminator line. That's when the sun starts to set and darkness moves towards the United States. And in Maine, you're already seeing that sunset here at 3:40 in the afternoon Eastern time. And it is pretty cold up there in Maine. Temperatures in the upper teens and 20s in some areas of the higher elevations. And looks like some more rain will be headed towards your way in Maine. Had a couple of inches of snow in the Portland area just a couple of days ago. But you can see these clouds moving to the northeast, and we have another big change in the weather pattern coming. Some more cold air up in Canada is going to be diving south and east come about Wednesday. So if you have any plans, get ready for some changing weather Tuesday into Wednesday in the Midwest here, upper Midwest, and then on the East Coast, Wednesday into Thursday, we have another visit of some very cold weather. It doesn't look like it's going to be record-breaking, but it does look fairly cold. And a little bit of snow perhaps on the back end of it, but primarily it's going to be a rain event. Looking out towards the southwest part of the country, look at this, Texas, a lot of clear skies, low clouds in Oklahoma. Look at that. That looks pretty cool as this low-level moisture remains intact here across Oklahoma. So some low clouds and showers around there. But as you head towards the west, very clear and very mild conditions. And even over towards California, one of the big things I'm very concerned about is the fire weather danger that is going to increase starting today into Wednesday as high pressure and very dry air moves in to the southwest. That is causing a big concern for any wildfires that develop, because strong winds blowing from the east to the west, call them Santa Ana winds, are going to fuel fires if they do form in Southern California. We'll get to some details there through GeoCollaborate in just a second. But I want to shift over to the western satellite here and show you what that looks like. This is the perspective from GOES East, but I've loaded the moisture channel into GOES West. And this is what it looks like. Look at that. Remember, the bright colors, that's dry air. It's not dangerous weather or any cause for alert. Although now in Southern California, the wildfire danger is getting higher by the day. And so you can see this area of storminess out in the Pacific, way out here in the Pacific. That's moving up towards the Gulf of Alaska, where there are storm warnings in effect with winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour, likely along the south central Alaskan coastline. This storm system is going to be moving up in this direction. But there is the chance in about 5 days or so for another atmospheric river to come in and impact Central California. I'll show you that on the atmospheric river numerical model forecast from the WRF model here as well. But it looks like this is the big story. The dry air over Central and Southern California, Southern Nevada, is going to lead to potential wildfires that could spread very rapidly. And so let's take a look, and we'll dive into that a little bit. I'll show you the forecast from the atmospheric river model, and we'll take a look at that over the next couple of days. So here it is. You kind of get used to this sort of picture. This is a map. You can see California right here. Here is Nevada. Here's Oregon. And here's Washington State. Here's Vancouver Island, Vancouver in BC, and Western Canada, British Columbia right here. So wherever we see these dots, this is put together from University of California, San Diego. They're watching and predicting atmospheric rivers because it's really important to be able to know where the moisture is coming in, where it's coming in, when it's coming in, and how much is going to fall. So water managers can determine whether to open up dams and let water out because heavy rain is going to fill them back up, or to not open those floodgates and save as much water as possible. Those folks are working very hard for all the people in the western United States so they can maintain water flow. Many people rely on the water in California from out of state, in Nevada, Idaho, on up into Oregon, and certainly the mountains of the Sierra Nevada. So let's take a look at this area, and I'll pull up one of these blue dots here. You can see the white dot where there's no atmospheric river forecast. I'm moving down here into southern Oregon, where we do see now in southwestern Oregon, the coast of southern Oregon, atmospheric river, a weak one that is forecast, AR1, and that's about 5 days out. Okay, here's what this graph means. This is today, the 9th of December, right in the middle. This is the past, and this is the future. So this is the 9th, so Monday. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. So it looks like during the day Friday is when this atmospheric river is forecast to come into southwestern Oregon. And I'll just move down this whole area because you can watch as the dots move. And when this atmospheric river is forecast, it's all about the same time. So Friday into Saturday is what we're looking at right now. And again, it looks like a weak atmospheric river. How about the modeling? Let's take a look at the GFS model and what that looks like over the next couple of days, because we do have, while we have mild conditions in the east right now, another change is on the horizon coming from cold air in Canada that's going to be spilling south with a pretty strong low pressure system that's going to develop off the coast, the northeast coast, and impact particularly Maine down into New Hampshire and Vermont, and also perhaps down into Connecticut and Massachusetts. So here we are right now. This is the current forecast. This is 18Z Monday. So this afternoon, look, it has this moisture over the mid-Atlantic, but I just showed you the hole in the clouds, if you will, just an opening. That means just more dry air has gotten in than the model thought to dry us out during the day today in the mid-Atlantic. But let's put this into motion and show you what happens as we go on into the future. You can see some snow that's likely during the night tonight into New Hampshire and Vermont, and then moving on up into Maine. Here is Maine, right in here. This is Maine, and then off to the southwest. It looks like it'll be more rain, and then some snow in western New York. Lake effect is going to kick up again. Doesn't look like any big record-falling lake effect snows, but this is going to push out pretty quickly. And then you'll see once again another low pressure system and some rain forms on Wednesday. That's with the Arctic front too that's coming through. You can see this high pressure system here. It's pushing down cold air through Oklahoma, Arkansas, right in back of this front, and it's turning the residual moisture here in around the Great Lakes into snow. But meanwhile, up and down the I-95 corridor, just looks like rain. Looks like pretty mild conditions and rain. I'll show you this in the temperature forecast as well so you can see the cold air coming in. Then that cold air dives down in here, and that cold air means some snow perhaps in West Virginia, Western Maryland. So that'll be good for the ski resorts there for sure. As this cold air really dives down, you can see it kind of punching through these blue contours. That means air cold enough to snow. In the numerical models, we watch these critical dividing lines between rain and snow. When is it cold enough to snow, and will that snow reach the surface before it turns to rain? So it looks like we'll be having snow during the day on Wednesday. That's Wednesday afternoon. And then it pulls out maybe as a little bit of wet snow in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, even down towards Norfolk. Probably not, but maybe a wet flake will splatter on the windshield as this low really wraps up. Look at that. That's a strong low pressure system, and it's going to create a lot of what we call cold air advection, the movement of cold air from one place to another. It's advecting southward into the mid-Atlantic states. So Wednesday into Thursday look like kind of a rock and roll day. Windy, cold, rain ending, perhaps with some snow in the mid-Atlantic. But look at this, snow in the Great Lakes. So the lake effect snow machine is going to turn back on. And I'm going to go back and talk about the west here in just a minute. That low, look at it, goes all the way past Hudson Bay up towards Greenland, and high pressure takes over the weekend. This is Friday night into Saturday morning. So it looks like a decent weekend on the East Coast. But I want to back up here a little bit because I want to show you the concern in the west. And I believe I do. I think I did load up a model in the west as well, but I'll show you this first. Look at this area right in here, this high pressure system. This is going to build to the south. And whenever we have a strong high pressure building to the south in the southwestern U.S., it means we're going to have winds from the east to the west, Santa Ana winds. And the air is very dry with this high pressure system. So you can see as it builds down south, as I put it into motion, things get very dry. How can you really see this? Let me move this over to the Western model here. This is more of a high resolution model. It's called the high resolution rapid refresh model. And this is something that you can see that dry air move in. We're looking at dew points. Dew points really show where dry air is. And look at that start to pick up, to really dry out in Nevada and California here. Watch this area right here as it expands over the next couple of days. Look at that. And even moves into the Los Angeles, San Diego areas. And you can almost see it pushing from inland out to sea. So that's an east to west wind direction. That is classic pattern for the Santa Ana winds. And when you have dry air and it comes down the mountain, it gets even drier. So that's going to dry out a lot of the vegetation. And if any wildfires form, they're going to spread rapidly. So we'll be watching this very, very closely. Now I'm going to back out a little bit and show you a different perspective. This is the whole U.S. here. Here again is Hudson Bay. Here's Florida. Here's California over here. And this is the 850 millibar, or about 5,000 feet above the ground, 6,000 feet, generally speaking. And we're going to show you where the cold air is and where it's coming from. This is the cold air up in central Canada, up towards the Arctic Circle, that's going to be coming to visit, and watch it as it moves south and dives south during the day. So this is Wednesday, and here is that frontal system that's passing through on Wednesday with cold air right behind it. And watch, we'll take it through a little bit further, Wednesday into Thursday, and look at that. The Arctic air right here, it gets cut off, and the really cold stuff only stays up in northern Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and then it's going to be forced back up to the north. But this cold air here is going to be cold enough to change the rain to snow. So I think you'll see a mixture in the state of Maine, but it's going to be kind of nasty. Strong winds, rain, and then maybe some snow as that cold air then rotates back up. Then look, it gets mild again on the East Coast with another Arctic shot coming in right there, and that is about December 18th. So a week from Wednesday, it looks like we'll have another shot perhaps. Again, that's out there in fantasy land. Anything past 109 hours forecast. But look, I'll take this back. You can see that cold air just punching in, coming to visit. Northern Minnesota, ouch. North Dakota, ouch. Windy and cold, but you are used to it. This is something that's going to rotate around and be out of here in a couple of days. So that's the way that looks. And I want to show you GeoCollaborate and show you what it looks like from the standpoint of the advisories that are out here. So let's go to GeoCollaborate full screen, and I'll show you what's happening. So this is the active advisories from the National Weather Service. You can see up here in Maine, this is the area that has winter weather advisories for snow, and that could be a couple of inches of snow during the evening tonight. Out in the Midwest here in South Dakota, we have wind advisories. Surprise, surprise. I know you're living out there saying, when don't we have wind advisories? But, there's really nothing to block that cold air from coming down out of Canada. Northeastern Montana, we have winter weather advisories, so no big storms, just snow chances of, 1 to 4, 1 to 5 inches of snow. It looks like that's going to be the rule over the next couple of days. This is a freeze watch. Let's get a little bit closer here as we get towards the southwest part of the country. This is a freeze watch down south of in Tucson, so it's going to be cold there over the next day or two. But look at this area. This is what I want to focus in on in Southern California. We have fire weather watches, red flag warnings. And those are in effect throughout the entire Los Angeles area and even down towards San Diego. Now, these red flag warnings, little bit of different terminology that the Weather Service uses. Most of the time when you have a warning, it means that is that event, a tornado warning, a hurricane warning, blizzard warning, that event is imminent. A red flag warning doesn't necessarily mean that a wildfire has broken out. It just means if one does break out, it could spread very quickly. So this is what we're looking at over the next 3 days here with this red flag warning. Even out here, it looks like we have the chance of fire conditions out in the islands out here. You can get a little bit closer off the coast of California. And so that is something that we're going to watch very, very closely because the dry air, the low relative humidities, and windy Santa Ana winds over Southern California will produce critical to locally extreme fire weather conditions. So these will be the greatest in the higher elevations in Southern California and in the higher terrain areas to the north and east of Los Angeles to San Diego. And so that's what we're looking at. Let me back out just a little bit more. So there's San Clemente right there. I'll back out so you can see more of down to San Diego as well. So here is that whole fire weather danger. Now, winds of 35 to 45 miles per hour in the valleys, gusts up to 50 to 65 miles per hour in the mountains. They will help fan any flames that do quickly develop and may reduce visibility with blowing smoke and dust, adding to the travel concerns in the region. So if you're planning on traveling anywhere over and through the mountains, be very aware of this fire weather danger. So across these areas, red flag warnings are currently in effect, and it affects almost 13 million people in this area. So that's something that we'll be watching over the next couple of days here. And, also speaking of California, I'll zoom out here a little bit. We did have that earthquake last week, and we had so much interest in the earthquake on the channel that in Dr. Ellen Prager's discussion of the earthquake last week, that I asked her to join me earlier today to answer another question that people have been asking about whether a deep ocean fish can predict earthquakes. Talking about the earthquake last week that happened in California, there's a question that keeps coming up, came up in some of the viewer comments and also some emails that I've gotten. And I've talked to some friends too. People are asking if the recent oarfish washing up in California, that's also known as the doomsday fish, were related to the earthquake.
So Dave, are you asking me if the washing up of the oarfish actually predicted the earthquake?
No, but some on the channel are, and some of my friends are. So what do you think?
Well, they're called the doomsday fish because that comes from Japanese folklore. But yes, several oarfish have washed up in California over recent months between September and November, about 3. Some were found flying on the surface, others washed up on the beach. Typically, this is because they're sick or dying. And in 2019, there was a study published to look for the correlation between washing up oarfish and earthquakes. And guess what? None. There is no correlation between finding oarfish and predicting an earthquake. Sorry to say. It's just coincidence.
So that means when people are hearing this, perhaps on the radio or whatever, it's really just something that they've taken and started to run with because it sounds kind of like it might make sense, but it's really not scientifically accurate.
It's not scientifically accurate. And one, there's a couple reasons. One, you don't see oarfish very often. They live in deep water, like 650 feet down to 3,000. So it's kind of a surprise. So people say, well, why are they coming to the surface now? And scientists think it's probably because of changing ocean conditions, whether it's their food source, temperature, oxygen. Has nothing to do with earthquakes, but they're strange creatures. They're not seen very often. And this idea of how can we predict earthquakes? People are looking for ways to do that. So it's a curiosity thing. It sounds gee whiz, but unfortunately the science just isn't there supporting it.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thanks, Ellen. I've also heard that these strange fish are sometimes called sea serpents, but that's maybe something we can talk about in another section of this update.
Well, yeah, I think if you look at them, imagine if you saw one of those things just coming by on the surface, or you saw it's swimming around. I think you can see why people might call them that, but they're essentially fish.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty fantastical looking fish, and they live so deep. I guess that's why we really don't see them so much. So thanks so much, Ellen. I really appreciate it once again.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, thanks so much to Dr. Prager for that great response and looking into the oarfish, which is creating quite a stir. But again, no correlation between oarfish that are washing ashore and any upcoming earthquakes. We're going to be watching very closely southwestern California with that fire danger. We do have a lot of dry air as depicted from the GOES West satellite. This is the dry air showing up at high levels of the atmosphere. So it's going to be very, very dry, very low dew points. That's it for this update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This has been produced for the All Hazards Consortium, Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, and we'll be back tomorrow with another weather update. Please watch out for yourself, and please watch out for your neighbors. They do appreciate it.